So often, we live with the idea that peace means everything is in order, everything is calm, nothing is going wrong, and nothing is pressing against us. We tell ourselves that once the bills are paid, once the health report is clear, once the relationship is healed, once the doors finally open, then, and only then, will we experience peace. But that definition of peace is shallow, fragile, and temporary because life was never designed to be free of storms. Seasons will come where things fall apart, where dreams get delayed, where confusion clouds your vision. If you're waiting for circumstances to align perfectly before you experience peace, you will be waiting forever. Peace, true peace, was never tied to external stability. It was designed to anchor you when the waves of instability crash against you. When the storm is raging and the thunder won't stop echoing through your heart, there is still a place inside you where assurance can live. Peace is not the guarantee that problems will vanish. It is the confidence that even in the storm, you are being held. That's why the strongest people are not those who never face adversity, but those who stand tall even when adversity presses in on every side. Their secret is not that they live without problems. It's that they've discovered the presence of assurance within the storm. They've learned how to breathe when the air feels heavy, how to walk when the path feels uncertain, and how to keep believing even when their eyes can't see a way forward. Think about how storms work. When the winds howl and the rain beats down, the natural instinct is to run for cover, to find shelter, to wait it out. Yet in life, the storm is often not something you can escape. You cannot run from the diagnosis. You cannot run from the betrayal. You cannot run from the loss. You cannot run from the season that presses you beyond your strength. The storm is there, real and unrelenting. But here's the mystery. Even as the storm rages, peace can remain. It doesn't mean you don't feel the pain or the weight of the moment. It means that underneath the trembling of your heart is an anchor. Assurance that you are not abandoned, assurance that this season will not last forever, assurance that the storm does not get the final word. Peace does not mean pretending the problems aren't real. It does not mean denying your tears or silencing your questions. Peace means acknowledging the storm, but refusing to let it control you. It means facing the reality of the difficulty without letting fear dictate your every move. Peace whispers, "This is hard, but it will not break you." Peace says, "Yes, the storm is here, but so is strength you didn't know you had." Peace is not loud or flashy. Often, it is a quiet resolve, a steady heartbeat, a stillness in your soul that no chaos can steal. There are moments when peace feels unnatural, almost illogical. People may look at you and wonder how you can remain calm when everything is shaking. They might not understand how you still stand tall when you have every reason to collapse. That's because peace is not natural. It is supernatural. It is not created by man's hands. It is given in the most fragile of moments. It is a gift that appears not when the skies are blue, but when the clouds refuse to break. Anyone can feel calm when life is easy, but real peace is proven when life is anything but easy. It is in the middle of the storm that peace becomes visible, unexplainable, undeniable. We must learn to shift our focus from the problem to the assurance. The problem may be loud, but the assurance is louder if you choose to listen. The storm may be violent, but the anchor is stronger if you choose to hold fast. The temptation will always be to fixate on what's wrong, on what's missing, on what's broken. But peace calls you to lift your eyes higher. It calls you to remember that storms are temporary, but assurance is eternal. When you hold on to that truth, you walk differently. You stop waiting for life to be perfect before you breathe. You stop waiting for the storm to end before you rest. You stop waiting for clarity before you trust. Peace gives you permission to live fully even when you don't have all the answers. And here is the beautiful paradox. Sometimes the storm is not removed because it is the very place where peace is meant to be discovered. Without the storm, you might never know the depth of the assurance that sustains you. Without the storm, you might never discover the strength of the anchor that holds you steady. Without the storm, you might never realize that peace was never about circumstances, it was always about presence. Difficulties have a way of stripping away everything counterfeit until what's real is all that remains. And in that place, peace emerges not as a concept, but as a reality that you can hold on to. So when the winds blow and the waves crash, don't waste time asking, why is there a storm? Instead, declare to yourself, even here, even now, I choose peace. That declaration will not erase the storm, but it will shift the way you endure it. It will take you from panic to trust, from despair to hope, from fear to courage. Because peace is not about the storm stopping. It's about knowing deep within that even if it doesn't, you are still safe, you are still held, and you are still going to make it through. This version, you added 50 words and fully expands Keynote 1 into a standalone motivational speech. Do you want me to now expand Keynote 2 into the same 80-50 word style so that we can build the full series speech one keynote at a time? You said, how twar ain 50 wardis want to use your handis antio hamadi kyle usos kai now to ChatGPT said perfect. Let's now expand Keynote 1 sign. Difficult seasons are not wasted. They shape and refine us into a full 80-50 word speech in the same heartfelt Priscilla Shera style voice. Without headings or a conclusion. We live in a culture that tells us pain is pointless, that struggle is unnecessary, and that the only good seasons are the ones filled with ease and comfort. But the truth is, some of the most powerful growth happens in the seasons we would never choose for ourselves. Difficult seasons are not wasted, they are tools, chisels in the hands of a master craftsman, shaping us into something far stronger, far deeper, and far more resilient than we were before. The things we try to run from are often the very things that carry the potential to transform us. When life presses us, when challenges break open the routines we depend on, we discover what lies beneath the surface. Difficulty has a way of pulling back the layers and revealing who we really are. It exposes the places where we've been depending on our own strength, the places where we've built our identities on fragile foundations. And though it's uncomfortable, though it feels harsh, this exposure is actually an invitation to rebuild on something unshakable. Without the difficulty, we might never realize just how much we were relying on things that were never meant to carry us. Think back to some of the strongest people you know. Most often, they didn't become strong in seasons of ease. Their wisdom, their perseverance, their depth of character were forged in fire. They were pressed, they were stretched, they were tested, and through the process, they became unshakable. Strength doesn't grow when everything is easy. It grows when everything feels impossible. Diamonds are not formed in comfort, they are formed under pressure. Steel is not strong without fire. Seeds do not bloom without being buried. And you too are being refined in the same way. It's tempting to look at hard seasons and only see loss. The loss of comfort, the loss of control, the loss of what once was. But what if, instead of only seeing loss, we chose to look for what is being gained? Because there is always something being produced in the midst of the pain. Patience is being formed, endurance is being stretched, compassion is being deepened, perspective is being widened. You are being shaped into someone who can withstand more than you thought, who can love more deeply than before, who can stand taller than you ever imagined. None of that growth happens by accident. It comes through seasons that we would never sign up for, but later realize we could never have lived without. There's something remarkable about the way difficulty refines our vision. When everything is stripped away, we begin to see more clearly. The things we once thought mattered suddenly lose their shine. The opinions of others, the chase for success, The constant noise of comparison, none of it feels as heavy when you've walked through a storm and survived. Hardship has a way of clarifying priorities, of forcing us to focus on what truly lasts. You begin to see the value of relationships, the gift of time, the beauty of breath in your lungs. You begin to appreciate things you once overlooked. Difficulty is not wasted because it awakens you to realities you would have otherwise ignored. We often think of refinement as breaking us down, but really it is building us up. Refinement does not destroy the gold, it purifies it. The fire does not ruin the steel, it strengthens it. In the same way, your difficult season is not here to ruin you. It is here to purify, to strip away what's temporary so that what's eternal can shine brighter. That doesn't mean it's easy. Refinement hurts. The fire is hot. The pressure is heavy. The burial feels final. But hidden inside every difficulty is the seed of transformation. What feels like the end might simply be the middle of your becoming. Think about this. Some of the most meaningful testimonies come from those who have walked through the deepest valleys. The stories that inspire us most are not of people who had an easy road, but of those who kept moving when every step was heavy. We are drawn to those stories because they remind us that difficulty is not the end, it is a passageway. Your difficult season might feel unbearable right now, but on the other side, it has the potential to become your greatest story of resilience. And that story will not only strengthen you, it will strengthen others. We tend to pray for quick escapes from our trials, but sometimes the very thing we're asking to be taken away is the very thing shaping us into who we're meant to be. If you were lifted out too soon, you would miss the growth. If you avoided the pressure, you would miss the strength. If you skipped the fire, you would miss the refinement. Difficult seasons are not wasted because they are the classrooms where endurance is taught, the workshops where courage is built, the fields where faith is planted and grown. So rather than despising the season you're in, what if you leaned into it with a different perspective? What if you chose to ask not just, how can I get out of this, but what can I gain from this? That question shifts everything. It turns pain into purpose. It turns difficulty into destiny. It transforms your outlook from hopelessness to hope. The season doesn't have to be wasted, not if you decide to let it shape you, refine you, and prepare you for what's next. This is a UE 850 word expansion of Keynote 2 in the same motivating, faith-centered style. Do you want me to move on and expand Keynote 3 into the same format now? Hit 3 E 3 and 50 woe RDs with always kind and GSA and TI Yosio Chedo. Chat GPT said great. Let's expand Keynote 3. Choosing peace in chaos is an act of faith and strength into a full 850 word speech in that same deep, motivational Priscilla Scherer style voice. No headings, no conclusion, just pure flow. Chaos has a way of shaking us to our core. It invades without permission, disrupts without warning, and challenges every sense of security we thought we had. When life spins out of control, our natural instinct is to cling tighter, to grasp for answers, to demand clarity. Yet peace in the midst of chaos is not something that comes naturally. It is not the product of circumstances aligning or problems suddenly disappearing. It is a choice, a deliberate decision. Choosing peace when everything around you is unraveling is not weakness. It is not denial. It is the ultimate act of faith and a demonstration of strength that rises from deep within. Faith is never tested in calm waters. Faith is tested in the storm. When nothing makes sense, when prayers seem unanswered, when the weight feels unbearable, that is where the choice for peace becomes an act of courage. To choose peace in chaos is to declare that you trust something greater than what you see. It is to say that even when the storm screams louder than your hope, you will not give in to fear. Chaos wants to control your mind, to grip your heart with panic, to convince you that you are powerless. But peace silences chaos. Peace looks chaos in the eye and says, you will not win here. Strength is often misunderstood. Many think strength is the ability to fight harder, to push louder, to take control of every outcome. But real strength sometimes looks like surrender. It looks like releasing your grip on what you cannot control and choosing to rest in the assurance that you are not alone. It takes far more courage to be still in chaos than to frantically scramble for control. Because peace in chaos is not passive, it's powerful. It requires the discipline to quiet your soul when everything inside you wants to scream. It requires the strength to breathe when anxiety is tightening its grip. It requires the courage to stand steady when the ground beneath you feels like it's crumbling. When chaos enters your life, you are faced with a choice to be defined by fear or to be defined by faith. Fear will always demand attention. It will paint worst-case scenarios in your mind. It will remind you of every failure, every limitation, every impossibility. But faith whispers differently. Faith reminds you that chaos does not have the final word. Faith points you beyond the storm to a greater reality, one where peace is possible even in the darkest night. To choose peace in that moment is to align yourself with faith instead of fear. It is to anchor yourself in what cannot be shaken, even when everything else is trembling. Sometimes choosing peace is not loud or visible. It is not a grand display for the world to applaud. Sometimes choosing peace is quiet, personal, hidden. It's the moment you decide to hold your tongue instead of letting anger rule. It's the choice to take one more step forward instead of collapsing in despair. It's the decision to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and believe that even though chaos surrounds you, you will not be destroyed. Those small, quiet acts are not insignificant. They are victories of faith. They are moments of strength that accumulate and remind you that peace is possible right here, right now. Peace in chaos also requires perspective. If you only look at the storm, you will lose heart. If you only listen to the noise, you will drown in despair. But when you lift your eyes above the chaos, you see a bigger picture. You see that storms have beginnings and endings. You see that chaos, no matter how loud, is temporary. And in that realization, peace becomes not just a possibility, but a promise. You remind yourself that chaos may be strong, but it is not eternal. Peace is stronger, peace is deeper, peace is lasting. There is great power in declaring peace over your life, even when nothing feels peaceful. Words carry weight. When you choose to speak peace instead of panic, when you declare hope instead of despair, when you align your voice with faith instead of fear, you shift the atmosphere inside your heart. Chaos may still rage around you, but it loses its grip on your soul. The situation may not change immediately, but you are changed. And often, that shift inside of you becomes the very thing that carries you through until the storm subsides. Choosing peace in chaos will always feel like swimming upstream. It will not feel easy. It will not always feel natural, but it is always worth it. Each time you make that choice, you build spiritual muscle. Each time you lean into peace, you grow stronger, more resilient, more grounded. What once felt impossible eventually becomes instinct. Peace becomes your default, even when chaos tries to rise again. That transformation is the fruit of faith. That resilience is the mark of strength. So when chaos surrounds you, don't wait for the storm to quiet before you choose peace. Don't wait for clarity before you trust. Don't wait for resolution before you rest. Peace is a decision available to you in this very moment. And every time you choose it, you are exercising faith, you are displaying strength, and you are reminding chaos that it does not get the final say in your life. That's a U850 word expansion of Keynote 3 in the same style. Do you want me to move forward and expand Keynote 4 the same way next? You said, you want 40 war D4 to my 50 war D Oshis Ias and Conjus and Kyle Sistaios. Keynote ChatGPT said, absolutely, let's now expand Keynote 40. Peace sometimes looks like endurance, not perfection, into a full 80-50 word speech in the same heartfelt, faith-driven style. without headings or a conclusion. We often imagine peace as this perfect picture of calm, a smile on our face, everything neat, everything in order. But life doesn't usually work that way. Sometimes peace doesn't look pretty. Sometimes peace doesn't come wrapped in perfection. Sometimes peace looks like endurance, like holding on even when your hands feel weak, like showing up when you'd rather stay in bed, like taking another breath when it feels like the last one took everything out of you. Peace is not always a polished image. Sometimes it is raw, gritty, and hard fought. The misconception we carry is that if we are truly at peace, then we will never feel shaken, never feel anxious, never feel wary. But that's not the truth. Peace doesn't mean you stop feeling the weight of life. It means you carry it differently. Peace doesn't mean you never cry. It means your tears don't drown your hope. Peace doesn't mean you never stumble. It means you keep getting back up. Sometimes peace is not the absence of struggle, but the quiet resolve to keep moving forward in the middle of it. Endurance is one of the purest forms of peace because it refuses to surrender to despair. It doesn't mean you have it all figured out. It doesn't mean you never question or never falter. It means that even with trembling legs and a heavy heart, you choose not to quit. That choice is peace in action, because peace is not about achieving a flawless performance. It is about choosing not to let the storm stop you. It's about saying, I may not be perfect, but I am still here, and I am not giving up. Think about how many people walk away from their purpose because they confuse imperfection with failure. They believe that if they are struggling, they must be doing something wrong. If they feel weak, they must not be strong enough. If they don't look calm, they must not have peace. But peace is not about appearances. Peace is deeper than that. Peace is when you can acknowledge your weakness, yet keep walking anyway. Peace is when you can fall to your knees, cry your tears, then wipe your face and get back up. Peace is not pretending everything is fine. It's enduring even when it isn't. Endurance has a beauty of its own. It may not sparkle like perfection, but it shines with authenticity. It is in the quiet steps, the unseen moments, the daily choices to keep going that real peace shows itself. Some of the most powerful victories are not won in big, dramatic breakthroughs, but in the decision to keep walking when no one is watching. The world may not applaud your endurance, but heaven sees it. And that kind of peace, imperfect, unpolished, enduring peace, carries more strength than you realize. Sometimes peace looks like simply showing up. It's getting out of bed on the day grief weighs heavy. It's putting one foot in front of the other when your mind tells you to give up. It's facing conversations you'd rather avoid, responsibilities you'd rather escape, challenges you'd rather not endure. And yet you do it. Not because you feel strong, but because peace gives you the quiet strength to keep pressing forward. That is endurance, and that is peace. Perfection demands that you never falter, never fail, never fall. But endurance knows that faltering, failing, and falling are all part of the journey. Perfection shames you when you stumble. Endurance reminds you that stumbling is not the end. Perfection sets an impossible standard that leaves you drained. Endurance whispers that progress, not perfection, is the true mark of strength. And when you live from that place, peace becomes attainable even in seasons of brokenness. Endurance also teaches us compassion. When you've walked through long nights and heavy days, when you've endured storms that others can't see, your heart softens. You begin to see the struggles of others differently. You no longer demand perfection from them either. You recognize that their quiet endurance is a victory in itself. You honor their battles because you know what it costs to keep going. Difficult seasons refine not just your character, but your ability to empathize, to extend grace, to understand that peace is not always smiling. It is sometimes surviving. And let's be honest, endurance is not glamorous. It doesn't always look like the mountaintop. It often looks like trudging through valleys, sweating in deserts, standing in the rain. It looks like doing the hard thing again and again without the applause of others. Yet those are the very places where true strength is built. Endurance stretches you, deepens you, matures you. And in that stretching, you discover that peace was never about keeping everything perfect. It was about learning to remain steady even when everything is not. Peace that endures is stronger than peace that pretends, because peace that endures has been tested. It has walked through fire and survived. It has faced storms and refused to sink. It has felt the sting of loss and chosen to hope anyway. That kind of peace doesn't crack under pressure. That kind of peace isn't dependent on a flawless life. That kind of peace is unshakable because it knows how to endure. So when you feel like you don't measure up, when you feel like peace has escaped you because your life is anything but perfect, remind yourself that peace is not about the perfect image. Peace is about endurance. Every time you take one more step, every time you refuse to give up, every time you rise again after being knocked down, you are walking in peace. And that endurance is stronger, deeper, and more beautiful than perfection could ever be. That's the Yaodain 50 word expansion of Keynote 4. Would you like me to continue with Keynote 5 in the same expanded style so the whole series is complete? You said, the 550 woes are duocity diang so tia kedikal jisana kesals chitia chat GPT said, perfect, let's expand Keynote 5Z. No storm can overpower the inner stillness that comes from trust and surrender into a full 80-50 word speech in the same motivating, faith-driven, Priscilla Scherer style voice. No headings, no conclusion, just a continuous flow. Storms have a way of convincing us that they are stronger than we are. They roar with thunder, flash with lightning, and shake the ground until we feel like everything we depend on is collapsing. Storms try to intimidate, to overwhelm, to drown out every sense of stability. But here's the truth. Storms are loud, but they are not limitless. They can rage on the outside, but they cannot touch the stillness that lives within a surrendered heart. No storm, no matter how violent, can overpower the inner calm that is born from trust. That inner stillness does not mean you won't feel the wind. It doesn't mean the rain won't sting your skin or that the thunder won't rattle your bones. Stillness doesn't cancel out reality. It transcends it. It's the ability to stand in the middle of chaos and know deep within that you are anchored to something greater than the storm itself. Storms may shake the surface, but they cannot reach the roots of a heart that has chosen to trust. Trust and surrender are not easy choices. They are not natural responses. The natural response is to fight for control, to wrestle with fear, to demand answers. But when you've done all you can, when your strength is spent, when the storm keeps raging despite your efforts, there comes a moment where surrender is the only path to peace. And surrender is not weakness. It is strength, because it shifts the weight off your shoulders and places it into hands that are stronger than yours. That act of release is what unlocks inner stillness. Storms may rage for days, weeks, even years. They may take away what you thought you could never live without. But even in loss, even in heartbreak, even in uncertainty, there remains a quietness that no storm can reach. That stillness comes from trust. Not in circumstances, not in yourself, not in the shifting winds of life, but in the one who is greater than the storm. When you choose to trust, you are making a declaration that storms will not define you, fear will not control you, and chaos will not have the last word. It is easy to be calm when skies are clear. It is easy to feel strong when life is smooth. But the power of inner stillness is proven when everything around you is shaking. That is where you discover that peace is not an emotion tied to circumstances, but a strength rooted in surrender. The world may not understand it. People may look at you and wonder how you can still stand when everything is falling apart. That's because stillness in the storm is not logical. It is spiritual. It defies explanation because it doesn't come from the outside. It comes from the inside. When you walk through storms with that inner stillness, you also begin to see that storms, though painful, are temporary. They may last longer than you hoped, but they do not last forever. And while they rage, they cannot destroy the foundation of trust within you. You might bend, but you will not break. You might cry, but you will not collapse. You might stumble, but you will not be swept away. Stillness is the quiet strength that holds you together when everything else is falling apart. There is freedom in knowing that you don't have to control the storm. You don't have to predict its path. You don't have to stop its wind. You don't have to silence its thunder. All you have to do is stand firm and trust. Surrender frees you from the crushing pressure of trying to carry what was never yours to carry. It gives you the courage to let go of the illusion of control and to rest in the assurance that even when you are not in control, you are still safe. And that rest, that deep breath in the middle of chaos, is where inner stillness is found. Think of a tree in a hurricane. The branches whip, the leaves scatter, the trunk bends under pressure. But if the roots are deep, the tree does not fall. Your trust is your roots. The storm may strip things away from your life, but it cannot uproot the stillness that is anchored in surrender. And when the storm finally passes, you are still standing, not because the storm was weak, but because your stillness was stronger. This is why storms, for all their fury, never get the last word. They may change the landscape of your life. They may leave scars, but they cannot touch the peace that comes from deep trust. That peace is untouchable, immovable, unshakable. And once you've experienced that kind of stillness, storms lose their power to terrify you. You begin to realize that you are not defined by the wind, the rain, or the thunder. You are defined by the anchor within you. And that anchor will hold no matter how fierce the storm becomes.